Hey folks, it's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Brianna. As I said, I'm from Davis, and I'm here to tell you about Foodfully. Foodfully is our software and hardware solution to eliminate household food waste. So, question for everyone here. Who knows what's in their fridge right now? Raise your hand. We got like 5 hand raises. All right, second question. Who here has thrown out food in the last week? A lot more hands. Right, so we as Americans are in this kind of weird space where we care about our food and we want to eat healthfully. We want to eat produce. We buy that produce, we bring it home, and we forget about it. We end up throwing it away because it gets fuzzy, it goes bad. About 1/4 of the food we purchase, in fact, we end up throwing out. That's a huge loss of money. It's at least $600 per person per year. And 2/3 of us say we're really sad about that. It makes us feel guilty, it makes us feel bad, and we want to stop it. Well, we can't stop it measured. So we at Foodfully surveyed about 500 individuals trying to figure out, why do you throw away food? Where's the disconnect? It turns out it's because people have forgotten about what they bought, or they remembered that they bought something, but were not sure how to cook it. So Foodfully's solution addresses those 2 problems head on. Foodfully syncs with your grocery store loyalty card. You link your loyalty card with your username and password or your phone number you use for that loyalty card, and anytime you shop with that card, we track your purchases for you. You can also scan a receipt if you shop at a place that doesn't have a loyalty card, and you can manually enter items, and we're working on a voice entry feature. We display your purchases for you, and we estimate when they may go bad. We then remind you before your food may spoil with a notification so that you remember your food is there. And then we don't just leave you hanging with that. We also connect you with recipes for those items, specifically prioritizing those that are going to go bad first. We give you cooking tips that kind of apply to anything in your kitchen. And we show you the location of a nearby food bank. So if you're a Costco shopper and have a large amount of food, you know how to donate that food. So our market is pretty large. It turns out that we spend about $46 billion as individual consumers on produce every year. We waste about $13 billion of it, and we estimate that in year 3, by the time we're fully up and running, and we have about 30 million monthly users, that we can divert $387 million worth of food back into people's bellies because they'll be eating it. Now, we also like to think of our market not just in terms of dollars, but in terms of people. And there are 96 million people who prepare a meal at home that they then eat out or eat it at home. Every day, at least one meal. There are 42 million people who buy fresh produce at least monthly, which is kind of shocking that not all Americans buy fresh produce, like even weekly. But we estimate that based on lots of market research and some surveys, about 36 million people are interested in reducing their food waste with an unobtrusive solution like Foodfully. So when we surveyed those like 500 and some people, we tried to figure out, would you pay for a solution like Foodfully? Would you pay to have your food automatically tracked and to be reminded of it? And it turns out that about 50% of people would. About 10% of people would even pay over $20 for a solution like this per month. But also 50% of people wouldn't really pay for a solution like this. So that knowledge informed our monetization scheme. So we are currently a freemium app, so it's free to download and free to use. And we haven't yet introduced our paid premium services, but we plan to. So the way we make money from our free side, to appeal to those 50% of people who are interested in our values but do not want to pay for a solution like Foodfully, we employ sponsored recipes and promotions for local businesses or brands. And we're working with 2 folks in Davis right now. We also have paid premium services that we're planning to introduce that include more detailed habit analytics. Right now in the free version, we'll tell you how many food items you've scanned in your lifetime, and then what your diet looks like based on the general food groups of how many vegetables you buy, or how many fruits, dairy, meat, stuff like that. We have more detailed habit analytics that focus more on micronutrients, carbon intensity, water intensity of your general shopping cart that are available with a fee. We're working on health wearable integration so that we can integrate with Fitbits, and we're also working on hardware integration of our own hardware. And so this is just a mock-up of our own hardware, but we've submitted 2 patents on a device that would go into the light bulb socket of your fridge and also be a light bulb. And it would sense the volatile compounds in your fridge so that we could estimate when items there are going bad based on kind of spoilage indicators in your fridge, as well as temperature and humidity there. We're not necessarily looking to build this item ourselves. We'd like to commercialize this technology to existing kind of device makers so that we can make all non-smart fridges smart in between this lag time between when smart fridges are really the norm and they're not right now. But this is something that we are actively pursuing to make this more of an end-to-end process. So our traction so far, we had a beta running, or our beta period basically ran from February until last month. In that time, we released monthly to about 200 new testers for a total of about 1,800 to 2,000 by the end, 400 of whom were from Japan and the Czech Republic, so that was pretty exciting to know that there are people all over the world who are interested in a solution like this. During that time, we were linked with 14 grocery store loyalty programs. Now we're linked with 19. It includes Safeway, Kroger, Amazon Fresh, and Instacart. We've got those 2 advertising contracts with local businesses, and we have those 2 patents pending on our device. So this is just an example of a weekly use example for us, because as I said, we released last month on November 19th, our first version. We are releasing an update next week, and we'll be releasing another update in January, and that's where we think we'll have most of our features that we really want to see in there. So as you can see, we have really periodic use. This is over like a 3-day time period, and people spike in their use either in the morning or in the afternoon when they're trying to plan for dinner. And this is what it looks like when their number of items are added per day. And this is about over 3 days, but it's separated by kind of the time zones aren't necessarily standardized here, but most people add things in the afternoon. There are a lot of people who shop like 2 or 3 times a week after work. So we see that people use it outside of just adding items. Like there are people who examine Foodfully without needing to add anything. Go ahead. So our average user is a millennial. At least those are the people who showed the most intense use during our beta period. And a lot of them buy really different produce, but they buy really similar like grains. So that's really interesting to see that keeping up with the produce is going to be a key part of what we do at Foodfully. Go ahead. And we think that because most of our users are millennials, that we're most well poised to be the solution for them. Meal subscription boxes can only give you a maximum of 3 to 4 meals a week, and are a little bit out of the price range for a lot of people Foodfully would work for. Smart fridges, as I mentioned, are still expensive, they're not ubiquitous, and most millennials do not or will not in the future own their own home to be able to invest in a smart fridge. Food apps like CookBright or Yumly or Kitchen Stories are really beautiful and are all about the narrative of cooking, which really appeals to a lot of people, but they don't necessarily link with the loyalty card, they don't really talk about spoilage, they don't really focus on any of those sustainability efforts, and that's what we do. So we think that we are the most well qualified to kind of address this problem of food waste at the home for millennials specifically. So our team is really experienced in the world of startups and science. I'm a plant pathologist. I got my master's at UC Davis and still work there as a researcher part-time. We have 2 actual rocket scientists who work at NASA on our team who are developers. We've got a great behavioral designer and then another coder who also has an MBA. So we've got kind of a wide variety of skills here. And we're happy to say that we've been mentored by Davis Roots in Davis. It's a local incubator there. We're currently mentored by Plug and Play in Sunnyvale, and we'll be pitching at Expo Day at the end of next week there. And we were the winners of the Big Bang UC Davis Business Competition in 2015, and we also won an award at Big Ideas in Berkeley. So we've been around since about late 2014, and now we're finally kind of coming out. So that's our presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I'd love to
Great job.
Thanks.
The first question we always ask is, what can we as a community do for you?
Yes, so if you all want to take out your phones and download Foodfully today, that would be great. We're on iOS and we're on Android. And we'd love to count you as potential users or downloadees. Any feedback you can give us is really, really useful. And we also hope that you'll be able to appreciate our update that we come out with next week, so you'll be able to kind of see our improvement over time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, so opening up to questions from the audience.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually downloaded this while you were talking, and my first recommendation is, I'm hit with a wall to sign in. So
Right, you have to log in. Mm-hmm.
So my I'm an app developer. My recommendation is
Yes,
let
user.
somebody hit it, let them look around, let them play in a way that's like, oh, you guys have saved thousands of dollars for people per year. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like I already just deleted it when you were talking. So I don't know what it does. I don't know what the benefit is to me unless I'm sitting here watching you.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I would just recommend like something that then definitely shows the cool thing you're doing, how much you save people, and then they'll hook in and give you credentials.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Do you, can people just type in a food item and then get a recipe or?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So what you can do we have a section called the fridge, which is where all your food items are stored, even though we know most people don't always store every item in the fridge. And we have a section called the stove, which is where all the recipes are. And you can go in the fridge and select an item specifically, and then everything in the stove will be a recipe that includes that selected item. If you just go over to the stove, it will show recipes for your items, specifically prioritizing those that are going to go bad first. Go ahead.
I really like the concept and what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Can you explain what the free version does and what the free version does?
Sure.
You're offering them each one.
Yeah, so the free version has all of the core functionality, which is you can link a loyalty card, scan a receipt, or manually enter an item. So we track all your items. We then show you recipes for all those items. We show you basic metrics for those items. So how much of your diet is in each food group, and where your purchases come from, receipts, grocery store loyalty cards, or from manually entering items. That's what the free version does. The advanced version, or the premium version, does all of those things and then gives you more detailed analytics. May, in the future, be able to link with things like Fitbits, or may be able to work with our hardware device directly, depending on how we decide to make our hardware device. So the core functionality is the same, and right now the only version available is the free version.
So I saw a cool app yesterday, I think, on a newsletter that lets you take a picture of food and then it gives you recipes for that food.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed like a cool thing for your app as well, to be able to take pictures of stuff to recognize like what it is instead of having to type it.
Totally. Yeah, that's a really good point as well. There are a lot of really interesting libraries out there that allow you to recognize food items. And so we just don't really want to make it super slow right now, like
Right.
incorporating a whole new package, but that is something we're looking at in the future. Mm-hmm. Thank you for mentioning it. What's that?
Yeah, I had a comment, a question, and then an intro.
Great.
So first of all, I felt like the graphs weren't very helpful to the audience. I understand, like, oh, people get it in the afternoon or the morning, but I think
Sure.
what's more interesting is just like, here's how many people download it, and here's how many people are regularly using it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think that would be a lot more helpful than, oh, they use it in the afternoon or the morning. I want to know how many are using it and how often.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more important reference for that. And then, so the other question I had was, how exactly are you planning to target the 10% of people that would be willing to pay? Like, is there anything that you know about those people? Like, are they pack rats, or are they outgoing people, or what sorts of people do you feel like would be the people that would benefit most and pay? Do you know what attributes they have?
Sure. So it's actually about 50% of people who are willing to pay.
Yeah. Well, okay. But who pay the big bucks, I guess?
Right. Well, it's going to be $3.99 for basic integration, and then $7.99 for hardware integration, and it'll be cheaper than that. It'll end up being $5 a month if you buy it all ahead of time, and then the cost of hardware will be included in that. And those people we anticipate will be people who would download the free version who we convert to paid users over time, or there would be people who are very attracted by a gadget, and so we would kind of work with like kind of a Kickstarter-esque route to be able to attract those people, and definitely portray it more of like less of a food sustainability project and more of like this is a new gadget for your home that can help quantify things that are going on in your house.
Well, I guess I'm just kind of asking, like, what sort of people do you think they are? Like, are they adventurous people? Are they, penny pinchers that don't want
Sure.
and I guess, like, do they watch CSI, or like what?
Yeah.
I guess what sort of personality type do you think would be the key customer?
The persona.
The persona or the demographic or anything?
Yeah, so of the people who are willing to pay, of the whole group of people who are interested, they are slightly wealthier, they're slightly older, and they are slightly more attracted to hardware. So we would effectively just try to recruit them using the techniques that work best with those individuals. So that would be, and we would want them to be free users anyway. So we're trying to recruit those people now, and then just convert them eventually, and if we can't convert them, then we'll appeal to them, like gadget heads, people who really like that, by working with like publishers in the gadget world, or like we've been featured in Fast Company before, so working with kind of like those types of channels to be able to attract people there instead of the folks who like really like food news or are really interested in saving money.
I guess I don't really have a question. I just wanted this is super awesome. The concept and the problem you're solving is crazy important. The solution's spot on. Just like, oh, tonight I should make something with this thing that's going to go bad.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it in every produce. I want to see like a sign for it in every produce department. Maybe even like iPads so we can play with it. Like, oh yeah, this is solving the exact problem. Here to buy groceries I just threw away last week. Thank you for the marketing.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah.
Does the app consider everything that's in your refrigerator when it spits out a recipe? So let's say I put celery on there,
Mhm.
or I click on celery. I don't know how it works, but then I have like tomatoes and cheese also. Does it
Mhm.
consider those other things, or does it only consider the one thing when it spits out a recipe?
So you can ask it to consider just one thing, and that those recipes will be prioritized. But otherwise, what it considers is the centrality of that item to a meal. So if you can build a meal around it, if it's a piece of meat, or if it's like potatoes, or like a squash, those things are considered more central to a meal than like celery would be. So the centrality of an item, and then when it's gonna go bad. And that's how we prioritize every other thing, unless you select specific items that you'd like to see in a recipe. Go ahead.
Are you, have you been following what Amazon's doing with Amazon Go, the new store?
The just walk out technology?
Yeah.
Yes. We have that.
Yeah, that could be really interesting to integrate.
Definitely. Amazon is actually the easiest group to integrate with right now. And so hopefully working with them in the future would be a goal of ours. Yes.
Have you guys thought about using it also as a marketing platform for, I guess?
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to talk with Total House
This is
later.
like, yes, a really well-defined market of people that are specifically looking for one thing and great access to it.
Absolutely. One way that we plan to make money is, in addition, on the screen where you can link a loyalty card, we're planning to include try like Blue Apron today, try X, Y, or Z today, try this product today, so that you can eventually will be able to purchase things directly through the app. So yes.
That is really interesting that like everything's gonna go bad and some recipes come up that have one missing ingredient and then you can then order through you guys. That might be an interesting way to monetize.
Right, totally. Yeah.
So I do like this, I'm not trying to sound critical. Just as a person that like designs hardware and apps, I'm really curious why you're going so hardware-wise when if I got this, downloaded it, and had to like manually enter this stuff every day, and you're like, for $1, we'll link to Safeway, $1 will link to this, you'll make money on me immediately because I hate entering receipts and I know how much more cost that is. Even if you said $5 a month, and you don't have to focus on hardware. Hardware is long, it's expensive, it's repetitive, and you'll get it out, you'll test it, and it will get taken, at least as a competitor, you'll be competing constantly versus you can make money right now off of me if I was just able to say like $1 for Safeway, $1 for something else.
Sure.
Just a recommendation.
Sure. No, that's a good thing to note. There are other apps that are more focused on like nutrition, and they actually have a hard time getting people to link a loyalty card. They actually pay their customers $1 if they link a loyalty card. So it's not people because it's hard for people because right now to link a loyalty card you have to know your username and password for that card. We're trying to make it easier for people so that they can input the information that normally goes with that card in their minds, like a phone number for Safeway. But for a lot of people, you do have to know a username, and for some people that means you have to go set up a username. And it's like there's like a long process, and a lot of people don't want to do that from their phone. So they have to be on a computer doing that part and then link to the phone. So that's why most people pay them right now. And so we're really trying to figure out for our users who aren't necessarily interested in nutrition but are like mission focused, they like feel like sustainability is a thing they'd like to be a part of. If their hump is a little lower to be able to enter items, but we haven't decided to charge them yet because we just don't know how energy intensive it will be. And I don't know if I hit the nail on the head with how interested we are in our hardware. We'd like to protect our IP, but we'd like to license it to individuals first. We're not interested in building it ourselves necessarily. There are other people, especially manufacturers of non-smart fridges, who would be far better partners than us going it alone, and they would have a far more vested interest in making sure that people can just retrofit an existing fridge and it would be smart for 10 years. So yeah, but no, it's a good point because hardware is really long and hard, and we shouldn't go into it unless we're all really experienced in it.
So, have you thought about connecting to like Echo and Alexa? And you say,
Yeah.
hey, what should I cook for dinner tonight? Well, you've got cabbage that's about to spoil.
Totally. One of the main uses of Alexa right now and the Google Keep app is a shopping list. And so if you'll notice, we didn't have a shopping list or any meal planning calendar in Foodfully. And that's because most people, only 19% of Americans say they can even try to meal plan. It's too hectic for them. They want to eat what they feel like eating. And so we want to meet you where you are. We want to meet you with what you bought at the store. And we don't want to try to force any schedule on you necessarily, but for that other 20% of people who do want that is something viable for them. So being able to build an Amazon Alexa app that can link with Foodfully, because we would have to build something a little bit different to be able to link with Foodfully there, or building a Facebook app that could remind you when you're on Facebook that you have food items going like that, or show you friends that have matching items. Those are two. That's a little big brother, but those are two areas that we're exploring that are potential link ups with other existing ecosystems for Foodfully to work with.
Just to add on, you did a beta, but you just launched the app in the store too.
Correct.
So you're just starting to get traction.
We're just starting to get traction, and we haven't announced it publicly because we were planning to introduce a number of changes effectively this next week that would have made the app a little more user-friendly for most folks. So we're planning to announce at the end of next week at the Expo Day that we're working at. Right now, if you're curious, we had about 50 downloads without saying anything to anyone in our first week, and now we're about up to like 140. And that's been with like very, very little announcement. So we plan, and we haven't even told our actual beta testers yet. So once we tell them and recruit them, and once we kind of work on making that a bigger priority to us, we hope that we'll hit about 10,000 within our first couple of months next year.
Is one of the upgrades that you can log into Facebook or something like that?
Yeah, social login is one. Having a freezer mode is one, so you can put any item as frozen, and then it'll move down to the bottom, and it'll have like a year expiration date. And that's a lot of people end up freezing items that don't say frozen in the title when you scan a receipt or link a card. So, and we don't know that, so we need to know that. Making our notifications a little more seamless, and you can decide when you get notified. Because right now you get notified the day before an item is due to go bad, or may go bad according to our like estimation. You can say like, I prefer to be notified only once a week of items that will be going bad during the week. Like I don't want to know every single day, and a couple other things like that.
So you said you had a couple of companies that work on marketing. Are you generating revenue through those?
So right now, it's really cheap to advertise on Foodfully right now. We have a one-time fee of being able to create your ad for you, or your sponsored recipe. So it would be like a specific recipe that would include your item that would show up in the recipes, and it would be prioritized to show up within the first 5. And so there's a one-time fee for that, and then for every click we get on the recipe, we charge a small amount. And the cost per 1,000 clicks on a food app like this one is generally like $2.50. So it's not very much. So it's just, we really just have a startup fee, and then we'll charge you $2.50 for every 1,000 people who look at it. But since we're younger and we're not quite operating at scale yet, we'd have to charge a little bit more than $2.50 to be able to return a profit on that, or just any revenue at all. But
And I would encourage you to put in the option to let people link up with friends, because I do it with Netflix. I never thought I would when I started with Netflix, but I have friends who I share my programs with, you know, what
really?
I'm watching, and they share theirs with me, what they're watching.
And does that influence at all what you decide to watch or what they
Sure.
decide to watch?
Yeah, it does.
Cool. Okay, that's good to know.
And what they buy is interesting because I might want to try it. You know?
Right. Totally. Yeah, thank you.
Good time for one more.
Oh, what's that?
I think you had a slide that said like you have no banner ads in your app.
Right.
So could you explain why that is? Like why wouldn't you allow banner ads in your freemium app and then just have an option to pay to get rid of those banner ads?
Because it didn't appear in our surveys and work in our market research that anyone would be willing to pay for that. People want to pay for extra, they don't want to pay for less pain. In a food app like this, they'd rather just delete the food app than pay for less pain. They'd rather just like enjoy more features to pay for it. They want to feel like they're getting something out of that. And so we also just know that there are a lot of it's more lucrative to have someone buy a subscription at Blue Apron, like that will net you like $20 a person, than it is to just flash banner ads at them all the time and give them a negative experience. We want them to kind of like build a positive experience at Foodfully. And so that's our opposition to banner ads is effectively like a little ideological, I guess, that we don't like that for ourselves, so we didn't want it in our app. But it is a good point that for a lot of people, they would continue to use an app even with the pain, and they'd rather like that be removed. Not in ours. Like no one wants to. They'll just delete it. Yes.